I don't really know as much as I'd like to about my grandmother. I just know the facts. Margaret McDonough was born in September of 1917. She's lived in Lowell, Massachusetts for her entire life. Growing up at the funeral home that her father and her grandfather ran. She attended college at Mount St. Vincent in Nova Scotia. She married my grandfather, became Margaret Rynn, and they had 7 children.
I remember her always cooking. I used to sit with her and watch Julia Childs and write down recipes with her, and I have all her cookbooks now. I have all my mother's cookbooks. She always had, I don't know, I found her to have a good sense of humor.
She was quite the socialite. She had a picture in the paper all the time with her gloves and big hats on, and I just remember her always going out to teas and things like that.
But she would bring us to the pool and sit with her lady friends and tell us to go play and get out of her hair. Look at the house we grew up in and the things we had, and it all looked like we were, pretty well off. And we were. We didn't want for a lot, but we also didn't need a lot. We grew up in a different time than what you kids grow up in now, and we were fortunate that it was a sporting goods store, so we never had to buy skis and skates and all those athletic things. And that's all there was to do growing up. There was no such video games. There was nothing like that. There were no computers. So the big deal for us one Christmas was to get a clock radio. Of the era that you had cocktails at 5 and you waited for your husband and he would come home and the children were dismissed and seen, not heard. That's how we grew up.
Smoking a lot. Sitting on that porch, always reading the paper and smoking. That's my vision of Grandma. Smoking and reading the paper or a book.
My dad had a stroke. She took care of him day in, day out. She was so devoted to a man who was so kind of like an authoritative historian. She respected him so much that he was the driver of the relationship. And when he had the stroke, it was like she had to, stand up to it.
Back then I didn't appreciate it, I guess, or understand it, but now I look back and it's like, wow, that was amazing of her.
When she developed Alzheimer's a little over 10 years ago, her children's spouses, as well as her 13 grandchildren, were the first to leave her memory. I remember visiting her at the nursing home and having to hold back tears at the realization that she thought I was someone that worked at the home and not her own granddaughter. I have one vivid memory of sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table, watching her make my peanut butter and jelly sandwich for my lunch. I must have been only about 3 or 4 years old at the time. She placed it on the table in front of me, and I was horrified. She hadn't cut the crusts off. I quietly asked her if she could cut them off, but she refused, something about being wasteful. I was infuriated, but I knew that she was not someone I was to upset, so I didn't say a word. I just ate around them.
Because I wish, like now I really want to talk to her and I'm interested now, and obviously you can't do that.
In a way, it saddens me that this is the only real memory I have of her outside of the nursing homes she's been in. But that's life. We get old, we see what we're supposed to see, and not everyone gets to experience the same things. It became easier to handle over time. As my mother says, if you don't laugh about it, all you'll do is cry.
There was a side of her that wasn't great. But, she wasn't perfect, and neither am I. The older I get, the more I appreciate probably the imperfections I thought she had.
I just know that when this brittle, sunken, 94-year-old woman passes, I'll get to look at her pictures in this film and remember her as the beautiful, selfless woman she really was, and I'll miss her.